And this is a great topic. Thank you, Vinay Chandraji, for identifying a topic in which we can discuss the relation, the nexus between Hatha Yoga and Tantra. And so people can see a deeper, intricate relation between these two systems. And for that, we can do some textual discourse, as well as first we can go through some references of the anecdotes, which will go quickly to everybody's mind. The tradition goes that the founder of Tantra is Matsyendranath. Matsyendranath is considered the first guru for the Kali Yuga as far as the Tantras go. So they say that in the Amarnath cave, Shiva and Parvati were in dialogue, and Matsyendranath, he manifested in the form of a fish and listened to the whole discourse of Shiva and Shakti, and thus gained immortality. And his first and foremost disciple is Gorakshanath. That is the tradition. So we know that from the Tantra perspective, if Matsyendranath's Tantric teachings are to be considered the primary, then Kaula Parampara, because any text that we can trace related to Matsyendranath are linked with Kula or Kaula. And with Matsyendra, as soon as we hear the Matsyendranath, we refer to Kaula Parampara. Immediately, then when we talk of Gorakshanath, the idea, the concept of Hatha Yoga immediately comes. So when we go even from the teacher's genealogy, what we get is Tantra and Hatha Yoga are closely interlinked. But let's speak from practitioner's perspective. Many students today, particularly in the West, some just want to do yoga for physical exercise, and they don't know its philosophical aspect, its cultural aspects, its dharmic aspects. That is one problem. But another, even a bigger problem is they view Tantra is very different. And so there's huge resistance there. But then there are other people who are actually doing or practicing, trying Tantra for all kinds of reasons. Even for the genuine practitioners, the blunder they make is in imagining that Hatha Yoga is somehow a separate type of practice and Tantra is completely different type of practice. And what happens is the type of training required before one goes to deeper aspects of visualization, deeper aspects of mantra practice, it's all about prana. And without knowing how to flow, how to allow the movement of prana throughout the body, which is the part of Hatha Yoga, then one is jumping into the unknown territory without even physically prepared. So what Hatha Yoga does is gives one a physical qualification so that one can go to other higher states of yoga that are prescribed in the Tantric text. Just for example, the most standard, the fundamental text for yoga is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And if you are a serious scholar of yoga, then you would study Vyasa's commentary. And there is this Yoga Tattva Vaisharadi by Vachaspati Mishra, and Vijnana Bhikshu has written even a commentary upon that. So his own Bhartika, basically. So there is this big lineage of yoga as a philosophy, Raja Yoga, in which you can find, this is basically Ashtanga Yoga. And I'm not kind of elaborating the basics because I don't want to bore you to death. So it's like the first four of the limbs, you can consider aspects of Hatha, whereas the others, then you can consider internal or Raja Yoga. Because many people who are writing a history of Hatha Yoga in the West have completely failed to recognize. They want to see if the book comes with the word Hatha Yoga or not. And this is a very reductive approach of trying to trace the history of Hatha Yoga around 12th or if possible 16th centuries and completely ignoring. What I'm trying to convey is, first of all, reading the originals from Matsyendranath. That is what is required, because it comes our own genealogy, parampara we call. You cannot completely separate Matsyendra and Gorakshanatha. And then if you read Matsyendra's yoga, and then you will start seeing deeper connection with the Hatha Yoga materials within themselves. For example, the system of Kundalini, the chakras, visualization of different chakras. So this is not in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Patanjali never mentions Kundalini. Patanjali never mentions these different Swadhisthana or Manipura chakras. Even when he mentions Nabi chakra, Kantakupa, he does not mention those names. So those you can find in the proper chakra, 6 chakra system you can find in Matsyendra's yoga. So the amount of Kundalini discourse and chakra discourse you can derive from the teachings of Matsyendra, you can find in the later Hatha Yoga texts as the chakras and Kundalini. So there is this already an intricate, not just intricate relationship, also almost inseparable. To what extent these Kaula Tantric texts are purely Hatha Yogic texts, and where the lines need to be drawn. But this is not just enough yet. I have to add, we should say the relationship of Hatha Yoga and Tantra and Natya Shastra. Now, this will be mind-blowing, because why I had to add that, because these 108 different karanas and various forms of gestures discussed by Bharata Muni in the Natya Shastra. If you see those 108 karanas, they are precisely yogic asanas. And the date for Bharata Muni will go around 2nd century of the Common Era. So we have to, even for the literature to read Hatha Yoga materials, we have to go at least incorporate these, just because they came within the Natya does not mean that they were originally just for dance, because people have not really started understanding the intricate relationship of culture and philosophy. Because the dance, if it is an aspect of culture, then there is a bigger aspect, that is the philosophy. And so you cannot separate that. So the testimony I can give is the only available authoritative commentary upon the Natya Shastra of Bharata comes from Abhinavagupta, the foremost tantric philosopher. If there was no connection of this dance thing with Tantra, why would Abhinavagupta spend so much time to comment on this voluminous work, which is like years and years of time he's spending? So to go back again, starting from Bharata's Natya Shastra, and then Patanjali's yoga, and the aspects of Hatha Yoga we can already derive, and then go back to what Matsyendranath has taught there, and then the literature of Matsyendranath, then we can go slightly outside to read what we can find in at least these 64 Agamas or Bhairava Agamas, that we can precisely say Tantric. But it is not just 64 Advaita, non-dual Bhairava Agamas. You can find also in the Raudra Agamas and Shaiva Agamas, like Mrikendra Tantra, all the original Agamas necessarily had a Yoga Pada. The Agamas were divided into 4 sections, and then one of the sections is called Jnana Pada, or the section on wisdom, and another section is called Yoga Pada, the section on yoga. So all the different Agamas will come necessarily with one yoga. So if we are thinking of one Patanjalian yoga, once we actually do a proper research and translate and then introduce to the globe for the global welfare, for the humanity, all the 92 agamas of the different varied forms of yoga discussed there, we are waiting for 92 times more of the yogic literature. But that's just the beginning. I'm just talking about how much of wealth is there for us to offer, to educate, to teach the globe from the perspective of yoga. Now, coming from the Bhairava Agamas, for example, Rudra Yamala Tantra. If you check, the book was published from Sampurnananda University, the Uttara Tantra. I'm talking about there are multiple versions and not all the Rudra Yamala is available now. But if you think just of the Uttara Tantra from Rudra Yamala, you are going to find so many asanas, even in terms of physical asanas, that are not even cataloged anywhere. So these are so many different asanas. This Rudra Yamala Uttara Tantra discusses that many people think it's just a book on yoga. And the whole book, we think the 6 chakra meditation practice, you just have a little bit of chart here and then it's done. It's the book, voluminous book, the 1,000-page long book is entirely about Kundalini and the chakra, 6 chakras, meditation on 6 chakras. So it comes in a preface, like the early chapters. These yoga asanas are discussed in the early chapters. Moving beyond this, we have to also incorporate, because there are some texts that are not necessarily Tāntric or Haṭhayoga, but they are yogic and they overlap in the Tāntric content and also yoga content. And then they overlap Vedanta. I missed the Vedanta conversation. They overlap Vedanta. For example, Yoga Vasishtha. You can check academia, and if you like, you may read my paper on the Bhushunda, the yoga of Bhushunda. There's this character, Bhushunda, and having a conversation with Vasishtha. And in that, what is happening is Bhushunda is discussing various forms of pranic exercises, 16 different types of pranayamas, and they are not discussed anywhere else. But this is not just a only source to discuss those varied forms of pranayama. Like I can give you the example of Netra Tantra, for example. All the 8 limbs of yoga are defined differently and practiced differently. Swachanda Tantra, for example, you can explore. And then later Tantra works, like even the works of Abhinavagupta, for example,